Do you ever feel like you are running at full speed yet going nowhere? You follow all the advice, you get your 8 hours of sleep, you meditate, you drink green tea, you make your to-do lists, but every morning you still wake up with a profound exhaustion, a deep sense of weariness that no amount of coffee can seem to shake. We are told that burnout is the price of ambition, that it is a badge of honor in the modern world. But what if all of that is wrong? What if burnout is not a problem of hard work, but a problem of engineering? For the next 18 minutes, we are not going to talk about time management or productivity hacks. We're going to do something far more radical. We are going to open the hood of your mind and explore a hidden machine, an internal operating system that is dictating everything from your motivation to your fatigue. And I am going to show you how to re-engineer it from the ground up. So what if I told you that the true cause of burnout has almost nothing to do with your workload, but everything to do with a hidden machine running inside you right now?
For decades, we have been trapped in an old paradigm. This paradigm treats burnout like a bank account of energy. When you work, you make a withdrawal. When you rest, you make a deposit. If your account hits zero, you are burnt out. The solution, therefore, has always been work-life balance, a desperate attempt to make deposits faster than you make withdrawals. But if you have ever tried it, you know it rarely works. The emptiness always returns. That is because the paradigm is fundamentally flawed. Burnout is not an empty tank, it is a poisoned engine. Today, we are introducing a new paradigm, a perspective that changes everything. Think of yourself as a high-performance biological machine, and this machine, which we will call the Burnout Engine, runs on fuel. The problem is not how long you run, it is what kind of fuel you are putting in your tank. There are essentially two types of fuel. The first type is fear fuel. It is distilled from the need for external validation, the fear of failure, the pressure to be perfect, and the anxiety of what other people think. This is an incredibly potent fuel. It helps you stay up late, hit deadlines, and push your limits. But it is also highly corrosive. It burns hot, emits toxic fumes of cortisol and adrenaline, erodes your internal components, and eventually will cause your entire system to break down. This is the source of burnout. The second type is purpose fuel. It is generated from your core values, genuine curiosity, a sense of connection, and the joy of the process itself. This is a clean, sustainable fuel. It may not provide the explosive burst of fear fuel, but it burns evenly, steadily, and efficiently. It powers you for the long haul without causing wear and tear. It creates drive, not stress. Burnout happens when the ratio of fuel in your tank tilts too far towards fear fuel. Your engine is not running out of energy, it is destroying itself from the inside. But how do you diagnose what kind of fuel your own engine is running on? And more importantly, how do you perform the upgrade without your entire life grinding to a halt? We will get to the schematics of that in a moment.
The burnout engine is not just a metaphor, it is a real psychophysiological system. At its core, it consists of three main components. First, the fuel source, as we have just discussed. This is the why behind your actions. Is it fear or is it purpose? Second, the perception filters. These are the lenses through which you see the world and yourself. A common filter in the burnout engine is the perfectionism filter. This filter only allows perfect outcomes to pass through. Anything less than 100% is registered as a failure, which generates a constant stream of fear fuel. Third, the output metrics. What does your engine measure as success? For an engine running on fear fuel, the metrics are usually external: praise, promotions, likes, the number in your bank account. These things are not inherently bad, but when they become the sole measure of your self-worth, the engine is in a perpetual state of validation starvation. These three components create a feedback loop. The toxic fuel powers the negative filters, which focus on the wrong metrics, and the failure to meet those metrics generates even more toxic fuel.
Why is fear fuel so powerful?
It hijacks the brain's primitive survival systems. The pressure of a deadline, the fear of criticism, or the desire to impress activates the amygdala, releasing cortisol and adrenaline. This is the fight or flight response. It gives you an explosive burst of energy to survive. The problem is, modern life has hacked this system. We are not running from a saber-toothed tiger, we are running from an unanswered email. Our engine is in a constant state of emergency, which leads to chronic inflammation, brain fog, and emotional exhaustion. Purpose fuel, in contrast, operates on a different neural network. When you act from your values, the brain releases neurotransmitters like dopamine in a healthier, progress-oriented way, serotonin related to contentment, and oxytocin related to connection. This system is designed for long-term, sustained effort. It does not cause wear and tear, it actually builds your resilience.
I can hear you thinking, but I need to be ambitious, right? Isn't a little bit of fear motivating? This is a critical point. This model is not a call to eliminate ambition or pressure. Pressure can be a useful tool. The question is whether it is your primary power source. Imagine a race car. It uses nitrous oxide for a short-term boost, but it cannot run the entire race on nitrous. Fear fuel is the nitrous. Use it strategically. Do not make it your gasoline. The goal is not to eliminate fear fuel entirely, but to consciously shift the ratio. Instead of running on 80% fear and 20% purpose, the goal is to flip that ratio. This leads to a crucial question. Is it even possible to change our fuel source, or are we stuck with the engine we were given? The answer, thanks to neuroplasticity, is that we absolutely can re-engineer our machine.
Let us go back to Sarah, our graphic designer. In the beginning, her engine ran on 100% fear fuel. She was afraid of disappointing her clients, so she would work until 2 in the morning perfecting tiny details no one had asked for. Her filter was the perfectionism filter. Her metric was client praise. This system made her successful in the short term. She was celebrated for her dedication. But what was the cost? Her relationships grew strained, her health declined, and worst of all, she began to resent the work she once loved. Her creativity vanished, replaced by a constant hum of anxiety. Her engine was not just burning out, it was on a trajectory for a complete system failure. This was not a failure of willpower. It was a predictable engineering problem. And now we are going to look at the blueprint to fix it.
Re-engineering your burnout engine is not a switch you can flip. It is a methodical, 3-stage engineering process: diagnosis, stabilization, and upgrading. You cannot fix a machine if you do not know what is broken. The first step is to gather data. This is your first concrete action. For the next 3 days, get a notebook or open a new document. Create 2 columns. The left column is titled Action. The right column is titled Fuel Source, Fear or Purpose. Throughout your day, every time you start a meaningful task, write it down. Writing an email, preparing for a meeting, exercising, even cleaning the house. Then pause for a second and ask yourself with radical honesty, what is the deepest motivation behind this action? Is it, I must do this perfectly so my boss does not think I'm incompetent? Fear? Or is it, I am doing this because it aligns with my value of excellence and helps my team move forward? Purpose? Do not judge. Just observe and record. After 3 days, you will have a diagnostic printout of your fuel ratio. Like Sarah, you will likely be surprised by how many of your daily actions are driven by an undercurrent of fear. This data is your starting point. When an engine is overheating, the first thing you do is cool it down before you can work on it. In our nervous system, overheating is the state of chronic stress.
We need a circuit breaker to interrupt that stress response. The most powerful tool for this is a technique called the physiological sigh, developed by scientists at Stanford. It is incredibly fast and effective. It works like this. Take a deep inhale through your nose, and then when your lungs feel full, take another short, sharp inhale to inflate the smallest air sacs. Then exhale slowly through your mouth. Do this 1 to 3 times whenever you feel stress rising. The double inhale maximizes the surface area in your lungs for gas exchange, while the long exhale activates your vagus nerve, sending a signal to your brain that says, "You are safe." This is your nervous system's reset button. It does not solve the root problem, but it stabilizes the engine so you can begin the upgrade.
Now that the engine is stable, it is time to replace the faulty parts. We are going to focus on 2 of the most critical upgrades. Upgrade 1 is to replace the perfectionism filter with the 85% filter. Perfectionism is one of the most toxic filters. It guarantees you will never feel satisfied. The 85% filter is an alternative operating system. For most non-critical tasks, actively aim to complete it to 85% of your capability. That 85% is often more than good enough for the outside world, but it frees up 15% of your precious mental energy. Sarah applied this. Instead of spending 3 extra hours tweaking a minor design detail the client likely would not notice, she sent the 85% version and used that time to rest. The result? The client was still happy and she had more energy for the next project. Upgrade 2. Shift output metrics from achievement to core values. Instead of asking, "What do I need to achieve to feel successful?" start asking, "Does this action align with the person I want to be?" Take the time to identify your top 3 core values. Maybe they are creativity, connection, growth. Write them down and put them somewhere you can see them every day. Before you start your workday, ask yourself, what is one small action I can take today that expresses one of these values? This slowly shifts your measurement system from external to internal. You can have a day with 0 praise, but if you know you acted in alignment with your values, you will still feel a sense of fulfillment. You are starting to manufacture your own purpose fuel.
The journey we have just taken is about more than just avoiding burnout. It is about reclaiming agency over your own life. We have shifted from the old paradigm of being a victim of our exhaustion to a new, empowered paradigm where you are the chief engineer of your own internal machine. You have learned that burnout is not your fault, but the result of a system running on the wrong fuel. You have been given a toolkit to diagnose that system, to stabilize it when it overheats, and to begin the process of upgrading its core components. This is not a quick fix. It is a blueprint for a more sustainable, more purposeful way of living. Sarah did not quit her job. She re-engineered it from the inside out. She still works hard, but now she is driven by the joy of creation and the desire to help her clients, not by the fear of being judged. Her engine now runs smoother, cooler, and more powerfully than ever before. You can do this too. The empowered control you are searching for is not in the next vacation or a new productivity app. It is in the ability to understand and fine-tune the magnificent machine running inside of you. So start today. Take the first, simplest step. Get your notebook and begin your diagnostic. Discover what is truly fueling you. This is the first step to becoming the engineer of your own life instead of just a passenger on a very tiring ride. If this video gave you a new perspective, share it with someone you think might be running their engine on the wrong fuel. Thank you for exploring this blueprint with me.